So first of all, thank you, Sagar, for having me on this. It's a pleasure to speak to both of you on this call.
It's hard. The pleasure is ours to win. It's ours totally. So just quick introduction for our viewers. I'm Sagar Venkateshwar and this is my colleague Mohit Yadav. Today we are from Team Marketing Raven and we are going to bring out a new episode of MR Speaks. And in today's guest we have Mr. Subhendu Pattnaik, who is the VP and the global head of marketing of the firm Cigniti, and he has also featured in the top 50 brand leaders of Asia. Thank you, Mr. Subhendu, for accepting our invitation. We are going to have a good session speaking on with you. Uh,
Thank you so much for having me here on this show, Sagar. Thank you.
thank you, Subhendu. So let's get started. Shubhendu, what's one instant that's very close to your heart from your corporate life? You must have seen lots of ups and downs till date. So, what's one instant that's close to your heart that you like to share with our audience? It could be anything. It could be a favorite campaign that you have done, or any activation that you have done working on. Anything from your illustrious marketing career.
I will probably say something which is not related to a campaign,
Okay.
something which is very close to my heart and which always keeps me grounded. I will take you back almost 14 years. Okay, when I graduated, I had some work experience. Then I did my MBA. Got good grades and all of that. Got a gold medal. But then, I also had the opportunity to stand in job fairs because I did not have a job after I passed out from my B school. Um, you know, that was back in 2009. So when I look back, I was standing in a line, and then there was this location in Pune which I went to, and there you could see that the line was really long. It was almost some 500, 600 meters long. Okay. It was all circulated. People were standing in circles, straight lines, and so on. And after probably 1 hour or so, I reached inside the building. Um,
Okay.
all along in the queue. I'll tell you what happened later, but all while I was waiting in the queue, few things were coming in my mind. First of all, what is it that I'm doing here? Why am I in Pune? Why am I standing in this line? What happened to my degree? What happened to the medal which I have shown to my parents? And they were so happy about. Why am I here? So one thing I realized that just a year before I was in the US, I was on a H1.
Okay.
3-4 years in the US, and then I was doing decently well. I could have done an MBA there, and then
Okay.
stabilized there. And then in a span of 12 months, then I was standing here. So why was all of this happening? Then I realized one thing, that ecosystems, wherever you are working, the environment, relationships, time, will keep changing. The only thing which is in your control is the kind of effort you put. Of course, you will need a lot of blessings when you're going through a low, and the kind of support you will get. That is what will push you through this. But you cannot have absolute control on your surroundings. When in such a situation, first things which are needed is that put your head down, get focused on work. That is what I have done. I keep saying this to some of the close team members who I have worked with, that life will always have ups and downs. When life is at your peak, when life is at its peak,
Yeah.
if you do not recognize people around you, if you do not accept it with humility, when life takes you to a trough, you probably would not be ready to accept. It is very easy for me to be on this call, say all of this 14 years
Yeah.
later, but trust me, at that point in time, I also had very amazing friends who used to call me every single day, even twice a day, and saying that, are you doing okay? Are you doing okay? Even though they were also going through a similar kind of a struggle. Two people got placed,
Yeah.
in that campus here.
Okay.
We passed out in a recession. And trust me, it's not a good time of the, in your career at all. And recession is never a good time to, pass out of the college. So yeah, so this has been my incident. Helps me keep my head down and stay humble.
Yeah, Subhendu, that was really interesting, and like we really can understand that the roller coaster ride that you had already taken multiple times in your life. That's great.
Correct.
So I just move towards the corporate career that you had now for like last 20 years in the marketing. So we wanted to understand, and in the MBA colleges, there's one thing like what's the sales versus marketing, how do you define, right? So after having 20 years particular focus on these, we really want to understand, could you
Okay.
briefly define that how can a marketing be a business function of in an enterprise, and if you can briefly define to our viewers here.
Okay. If I understood the question, Mohit, there was a little bit of break in between. If I understand the question right, you wanted me to, talk a little bit about how do you differentiate between sales and marketing, right? That's the first thing. And was that the question? Yeah.
Yeah, and if you can define marketing as a like a business function for an enterprise,
Okay.
that would also really clear up. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Well, put very simplistically, I would say that marketing is the eyes and ears of the organization in one sense, and the mouth, of course. For every great speaker, you have to be a great listener. So if a brand needs to speak well, if a brand needs to communicate well, its positioning, the positioning of its products, it absolutely has to listen, understand the market dynamics, and marketing plays that role to understand the entire market dynamics, buyer behavior, buyer sentiments, and then take all of that feedback and to see how can the product or the service be done better. And once the product and service is done better, how do you position that back to the target audience, saying that, boss, we took all of your feedback, and then here is it, the product, which is what you have been looking for. Marketing plays a really critical role, between the external world and the internal, organization. And so that's where I would probably put it. Now, the key difference which I have found, sales also does a similar job. They also, speak to external people, and also liaison with a lot of internal, functions within the organization. I always say this, that, one of my ex CEOs, I have been really fortunate to work with really very amazing leaders who have been running solo organizations, in the sense they have done sole proprietorships which have grown up to as big as 1,000 people, in terms of strength. And I have also been fortunate to work with great leaders in larger organizations such as Cigniti and also in Tata. So, it has been, I have learned this one thing, that marketing is, think of somebody trying to attract a lot of people towards themselves, right? So
Okay.
where would you do that? You would probably stand at a place where a lot of people can see you. So think of it like a mountain, right? You get up to the top of the mountain, and so that's the marketer who goes to the top of the mountain, starts saying that, hello everybody, here I am, I am so and so, I have climbed this up, this took so much of time for me to climb, and so all of that happens. That is the marketer. Now think about it. A marketer does not see an individual person. A marketer sees a segment. You are facing the left side of the mountain, the right side of the mountain, so on. So that's your segment. You are talking to that side, right? You can always talk to all sides, have a broader buyer persona, but that's the marketer for you. The moment after listening to some of those conversations, some people start walking towards the mountain. At the bottom of the mountain, you will have your sales guys. And then when the person approaches, one-on-one conversation happens. That is your sales guys. So that is what has been clear in my mind since a very long time, that marketing can always talk to an overall audience segment. Sales will talk one-on-one. And while both of them talk to an external world, communicate with the internal organization, both play a very, very vital role in the organization.
Okay, that's one of the best illustrative example I've ever heard between a sales and a marketing. So
Me
that's
too, when I
really
heard it for
great.
the first time.
I'm gonna use
That's
this one definitely.
That's really interesting to me. So extending this thought on marketing, while we know while we are everybody's familiar with the theoretical concepts of what's the fundamental difference between a B2B and a B2C marketing setup, how does that work out in the real world when we are, down into the field in terms of your budget, your reach, your focus? What are the fundamental differences between a B2B and a B2C marketing setup?
A lot of differences, definitely a lot of differences. B2B, when you say, let's first talk about B2C, because all of us know B2C, right? You have a product which is to be marketed directly or sold directly to an end customer. They can touch and feel your product. You can get the feedback almost instantly. And because of social media, thanks to social media, a lot of feedback now comes up in multiple platforms at the same time. There can be people posting something on Facebook, multiple channels, Twitter, and so on. Now, when you talk about B2B, it is a very different animal. I would not say that, which is complicated. I'll probably come to that a little later. B2B is very different just for the single reason that it does not have one decision maker. It has a decision maker. It's a primary decision maker. There would be people who are influencing that. There would be people who are actually going to be the users. Now, as a marketer, you have to understand what is the positioning of your product. How do you want to position your product so that the users accept it, the influencers promote it, and the decision maker buys it? Unless each of these three are able to have a positive feedback, the sale is not going to happen. That's number one, right? So it's a different, there are multiple people who are going to play a role. Before even your user gets it, there are even people who will, there is a vendor management, who will also come into picture, who will say that we already have so many vendors. Why do we have to onboard you again? What is the unique differentiation you bring into the picture? And so on. So that is also another set of, folks who you have to influence before you, make a sale or things like that. Now, that's one part. The second part is that the overall, sorry for this. Yeah. So the second part is that, really sorry for this. You can probably cut it off whenever you are editing. Okay. Yeah. So the second part is that, the average deal value, that is way higher in case of a B2B compared to a B2C. So when the deal values are higher, what happens, the amount of time it takes to close a deal, that is higher. So people's inhibitions are way higher. So what happens? Marketers and sales guys have to strive harder, for one sale or one closure than a B2C, right? So these are the two key differences which I can see from a marketing perspective. The overall channels do not change. There is a mix which changes. For example, if you are focused on B2B, you would probably do more of events where you would meet most of these folks on a one-on-one basis. If you are on B2C, you probably are going to do a lot of digital marketing where you would probably reach out to individual users. You probably would do a lot of TV commercials, or a lot of the channels
the
you would be choosing.
activities that can be done.
Correct. So but other than these two, I think that the overall, the way you would write your creatives, the way you would, define them, the way you would launch them with a launch date in mind, all of that do not change per se, but it is just that it becomes more and more complex when you have larger organizations, when you are talking about B2B. See, for example, you are talking to company which is about $100 million. You know that if you are approaching the marketing head of that company, let's say, and you have, I don't know, maybe a SaaS product, which is a CRM, which you have developed in-house, and then you want to that company to purchase. Now, the CRM has to be used by a set of users. So you have to have a community built so that you are then able to answer questions, do stuff. So that is the user side. The influencers, who are probably 1 or 2 levels up, they would have to look at your product in some of the analyst ratings of your product and see that your product is really benchmarked against the best of the best which is available there. Now, the top guy, who is the decision maker, he is also looking at, if I am to go with you, how much, whether you will be able to really live up to the expectations which he has from your product. Say he's a CIO or he's a CMO, right? When he is taking up a product, he is also putting his credibility on the line when he is rolling out that product within the enterprise or to all of the customers. So he has to look at all of that as well. So having said that, the decision making, the process becomes a lot complicated. You have to articulate your value propositions very differently to each of these 3 different segments. And because the channels are the same, you probably would be using LinkedIn, you probably be using Twitter. You have to be really creative how you use the same channel, yet have different messages for different sets of audiences. That's kind of tricky. It is definitely simpler when you have B2C products. It is simpler, even though now B2C also is complicated. If you look at kids products, kids are influencers. They are not decision makers, right? So, but without the influencers, decision makers cannot make a decision. So that also is there, but B2B sees it a little more, in a complex manner.
Okay, so this also answers our other question also. So we know that in our B schools, right? Normally the focus is on the B2C side. As a marketer as well, we always focus on the AIDA framework and all, and how to go the ATL activities. So we wanted to understand from you as well, like how do we see, like how can we make the market function as a growth and demand generation channel? Basically, definitely we are gonna run our ads on the LinkedIn and particularly targeting CXOs and all. So we wanted to understand that what's the conjunction between sales team and the market team in that particular proper cycle of that from the deal start, lead generation to the deal closure. So if you can little bit elaborate on that particular.
Sure. See, sales and marketing, Mohit, has to be aligned from the very beginning. It looks like a relay race. That lead gets generated, gets processed by marketing, and then finally at one stage we say that here is an opportunity, pass it on to the sales guy, and sales guy then continues the relay. It is not a relay race. Sales and marketing have to work hand in hand from the very beginning. I'll give the simple example, and then you would probably be able to appreciate that entire picture. Say, for example, there is a company which is into software development. They are also working on blockchain software development, right? Now, what happens is there are multiple other stuff which they also do. Blockchain is one of the offerings which they also have. Now, if sales and marketing are aligned, there is a very good handshake between both their teams, and there are no silos. Then sales guys are the first, because they are in the market. They would be able to get very particular feedback that 6 months down the line, 3 months down the line, such and such customer is looking at augmenting their capabilities in projects in a particular space. So that's one feedback. Marketing also gets a lot of feedback because marketing is eyes and ears for the organization. So it also gets a lot of feedback from analysts, from the broader survey trends which are there, and so the overall messaging is ready. But unless marketing and sales are together, then marketing would not get the urgency of releasing a particular thing or taking some offering to the market. That's number one, right? So once you have a salesperson ready, that this and this opportunity is available in such and such customer, that urgency doesn't come. So that's one. Second is once that is known and marketing starts creating the messaging. What kind of messaging will it be creating? So first is, okay, I have seen that there is this need from the industry. This is what companies are looking for. This is what our product or our service offering is all going to be. So I will create a one-pager document, let's say simplistically, which can be on your website, which becomes your web page. If somebody wants to download, let them download a one-page flyer. And then the first validation of that document, whether it is being liked by everybody or not, will come from the sales guy. He will take that flyer and he will go to all of those accounts where he has had discussions, and then he will share that with all of them and then say that we offer this as a service. Would you be interested? Now, just based on the feedback of what they get, marketing guys get a feel whether the document is good enough for the rest of the world or not.
Oh yeah.
Right? And once you get that, right, you refine your document. Not just refine your document. Document refining is messaging refining. But you also take some of the feedback and put it into your product as well or service as well, and say that they are not looking at only blockchain development, but they are also looking at blockchain training. Now, is that something which we will get into or not? That is a business decision. But then that feedback comes in when sales and marketing are working together, right? So that's the first level of or second level of validation.
Okay.
After the document is all done and all of that, client is happy, client is ready, then marketing runs campaigns. Some of those campaigns, ad campaigns or lead generation campaigns, some of those campaigns, the sales guys, if they vet it, if they look at some of those campaigns and say that they will be able to easily say whether the end customers are looking at some of this data, will they be impressed with this campaign, will they not be. Taking feedback from sales guys for marketing campaigns, even though might be time consuming, but should be definitely done once in a while, or if there is a calendar which can be set up with the sales and marketing, that would absolutely help in increasing the yield of the output of from these marketing campaigns which we run. So I would say that marketing and sales absolutely have to be closely intertwined with each other, and then starting from lead generation to lead closure, all of this would go really smoothly.
That's quite interesting, Subhendu. While you're on this topic of marketing, I just want to ask this question. Are there any myths related to the field of marketing that you want to actually disprove at this point, at this juncture, that you have faced in your career? There are so many myths that go around that you need to do this to get X, you need to do Y. Any such myths that you want to disprove, at least from your experience?
People are getting more and more aware these days, but I would say that there are still some myths which are out there. For example, SEO takes this is the biggest myth, I would say. SEO takes, search engine optimization takes a longer term, and so it takes almost 3 to 6 months to show its results. And Google AdWords or ad campaigns are they give you instant results. This is a myth. Okay, I'll tell you why. This probably was true when I started from my job fair days in 2009. At that time, search engine algorithms were kind of just getting started. They were evolving, and Google ad platforms were also very new. So people had a fascination towards sponsored ads. They were clicking on them. They wanted to know why ads, what is the difference, and all of that. Today, when you look at it, Google algorithms have become so advanced that they know it. We are not just talking about keywords, we are talking about intent data, right? Google understands all of that, right? So there is contextual. So the moment you have really solid content which is relevant to a particular niche, whichever is the niche which you have identified, that core keyword whichever is there, you would start getting crawled immediately, almost within 24 to 48 hours. The moment you are on Google search, Google will see, it will consistently try to benchmark the results which it is getting by putting you once in 1 to 10 search results, then 2 to 20, 3 to 30, or 31 to 40, and so on, every 10 pages. And then it will try to see whether you are performing there well or not vis-a-vis your peers, and that's how it determines. So within a span of about, if your content is really good, really nice, you'd find yourself on page one for a keyword, even within 7 days. That's as fast as that, right? And for an ad campaign, which supposedly gets created immediately, you can put the budget, you can define the audience, manage your creatives, and then go live. Some of that ad campaigns also to get reviewed, it probably takes more than 2 days. And by the time the campaign learns, adapts, that also takes about 7 days, right? So neither is SEO a 6 months thing, nor is ads a 1 hour thing. So that's the biggest myth that I've seen, because a lot of times, the second thing which I have also seen is, a lot of times people feel that the results from marketing, because of the intricacy of that field, some of the results cannot be really attributed to a particular channel. Now you have written a blog about your product or your service, you have created a web page, you probably have done a webinar on that topic. So now a lead has come, you are not very sure whether that person who came as a lead, he had seen your Facebook post, or he has seen your webinar directly, or he, because a lot of things are encrypted, so you do not know. Now, because of that, as you grow as an organization, your marketing function continues to grow, you will have different teams looking at webinars, different teams looking at social media, different teams working on website. It is very difficult to attribute the success, the outcome. Finally, the outcome is, what is the return for me from marketing? What is it that the business is getting, right? What kind of deals am I putting on the table? What is the pipeline I'm enabling? So when I'm doing something like that, and if I'm not able to attribute it to a particular source, that becomes a challenge, right? So the myth is that, I come across a lot of startup founders, new marketers saying that, Subhendu, webinars do not work for me, or ad campaigns do not really work for me. You never know. I first say that, does attribution work for you? Are you able to attribute all of your leads to the source, to the and that source is accurate? If your answer is not satisfactorily, then that basically means that you do not know which lead has come from where. You have your Salesforce, your marketing automation platforms, and all of that. You have your pixels ready. All of that is fine. Yet it will be difficult to attribute leads to exact campaign, exact creative. Even though GCL ID parameters, all of that you would have set up. So that myth is that I'm not able to see returns from some of these channels. That is what I feel that is another myth. The third myth which I would say is that people expect that you put in the money and leads will come, and marketing becomes a lead generation machine, which is fine. It is one of the things, unless that person, think of always that person at the top of the mountain, unless he brings a lot of people towards the mountain, how would the sales guy close the deal, right? So having said that, I would say that lead generation is one of the aspects. What matters is, what kind of brand are we creating, how are we creating that positioning. These are some of the things which will yield results over a longer period of time. See, why is a brand needed? First thing, somebody who is always looking at outcomes, leads, and all of that. The way I have always told that is that, let us not talk about a brand with a 1 year view. A brand cannot have a 1 year view, right? You have to have a 5 year view. What do you mean? So when you have a 5 year view, two things are happening. One is, you are consistently rolling out the same message about your services, about your products to the market. Over a period of time, you would see that you would not need to push the same content that hard. people would already be aware. Then you have to just talk about your differentiation. That's the difference between a brand and a non-brand, right? If you and so your overall advertising expenses, which are probably higher with low results in year one, will start showing great results with very less investments in year 5. That is what is branding. That is how brand stands for, a company. That is how brands work. So I believe strongly that these are some of the myths that, it has to be instantly, I invested money, I should get the results. That doesn't happen that way. So these are the 3, common myths which I have seen, guys.
That's actually, I mean, it's quite good to know that whatever hypothesis that we have, you have finally proved our hypothesis that these are the myths in marketing. Thank you so much, Subhendu. It's really, we are really glad that somebody who is in the top of the marketing mountain has given us a perspective on how it actually is to be in that mountain seat and let us know how things go. On behalf of Marketing Raven, we want to thank you once again, Subhendu.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much, Sagar and Mohit. It was really a pleasure. Whenever we have in future, whenever you have such opportunities, I would love to interact with both of you once again. Thank you so much.
Definitely, we would love that. Definitely, we would love that.
Yeah, it was a great. Yeah. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.